literature research techniques. Okay. So, in introduction of this paper, I would like to say that I am going to introduce this my particular research title, that Kolhapur region's educational vision of established by Rajashri Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj, and whatever its prolonged consequences. It's because whenever I think that if Shahu Maharaj did not set up or establish those boarding houses and did not had started those educational facilities to our people, then what would have happened with our people? Okay, it's very big thing for us, because that king who established those boarding houses and started educational institutes and those surrounding facility for education, and that's why how our people in our Kolhapur and surrounding region, they had and also have contributed in the progress of state and our nation. Okay, it's the very central theme of my paper. So in introduction, I would like to say that yes, of course, how the modern education was started, of course, from the arrival of British rulers, and different commissions for the development of our education field in our India, from Hunter Commission to the very recent National Education Policy NEP 2020 on national level. So what happened at that time, in those times in our state, in Maharashtra, of course Bombay at first, it means Mumbai in nowadays, and Pune were the centers of education facilities. And what happened in our Kolhapur from those days? In those days, what happened in the reign of, in the period of Shahu Maharaj, before 100 or 120 years ago, what happened here? That boarding schools, there was starting of boarding schools by Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj. And what is the current development or current situation of our educational field? What was happening during these 120 years in our Kolhapur region? So what is the prolonged, what is the far-fetched consequences or effects of educational vision which was seen by Shahu Maharaj, and how it has effect on national and state level. So this is the very introductory point. So objectives behind this study is, of course, to explain the work of great works in all fields by Shahu Maharaj. Then to focus on contribution by Shahu Maharaj in education field, especially in our region, that is Kolhapur region. Then to check the outcomes of those educational field progress or development in our region, that is Kolhapur region. Then to clarify the contribution of Kolhapur's educational field set up by Shahu Maharaj to the development of state and nation. Okay, these are the very clear objectives behind it. Then, of course, it is the research paper, that's why I have hypothesis that, of course, Rajashri Chhatrapati Shahu Maharaj established the educational centers in the form of boarding houses in our region, Kolhapur region, before 100 years ago. And those centers provided very capable personalities, eminent personalities, in the increasing progress of Kolhapur as well as Maharashtra and also our nation. This is the hypothesis of this paper. Then the content, before that I think I skipped that point, that method of this study, as already I have told you that I am a student of English literature, but I make somehow, I'm somewhat aware of those methods of study. But the present study to prepare this paper is basically socio-historical study. It is based upon secondary sources of informative books or text, relevant books or text, journals, articles, and the method is very analytical. Ma'am, next. Now the content. Madam, yes. Content, this is the core part of my paper, that what happened in educational field in Kolhapur before Shahu Maharaj. As we all know that there was very rare facilities of education institutions or taking education for all people. Then contribution of Shahu Maharaj in his reign. What happened here that we all know that in Kolhapur region, Shahu Maharaj has established so many boarding houses for different communities. And it is of course many times Shahu Maharaj told it that the purpose behind establishing that those community-wise boarding houses is to get freedom and brotherhoodness while learning. And next point is of course educational development after Shahu Maharaj. Whatever happened during these 120 years in education field in our Kolhapur, how our Kolhapur become educational hub during these 100 years. I think time is very limited and I have given so many information in my paper. So the contribution of educational field of Kolhapur to state and nation. I have collected those names that, for example, B.D. Datti, who was former acting president of our India, who was the student of the boarding school in Kolhapur. Then Sri J.P. Naik, who was educational advisor of Government of India. So these people, these are the eminent personalities and these are the contributions by our Kolhapur region, and it is the prolonged consequences set up by those boarding houses and educational institutions set up by Shahu Maharaj. Okay, this is the prolonged consequences, and it is very helpful to the nation and state's development. I think I have some limitations of this paper, that this research paper is limited to the overview of certain prolonged effects of educational vision seen by Shahu Maharaj. And further, researchers should consider or extend other aspects of prolonged consequences related to the above subject. Then in concluding point, I would like to say that in 1929, Hartog Committee remarked about university education as one of the primary functions of any university was the training of broad-minded, tolerant and self-reliant citizens. And exactly we can see that this expectation about education is seen in the views of Shahu Maharaj. The purpose of Maharaj was clear, that children of all corners must be literate, and at the same time they should become very good persons. And Shahu Maharaj also remarked about his vision behind establishing the boarding houses in Kolhapur, that each and every child from all classes, either from specific community or poor class, must be a part of our education system. So that's why Maharaj provided his own land for boarding as well as scholarship for poor students. And it was a great vision established by Shahu Maharaj, and the very uncountable result is in front of our eyes. Yes, of course, our Kolhapur, those boarding houses have provided so many eminent personalities in the development of state and nation's progress. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Pawana. Sorry for interruption, but our chairman has guided some new rules. Each participant who is going to present the paper, please take only 4 minutes and 1 more extra minute. You should discuss, abstract and direct come to the conclusion. Don't mention other points in your presentation. तुमचा जो पेपर प्रेझेंटेशन आहे त्याचा गोषवारा आणि थोडक्यात माहिती सांगून तुम्ही डायरेक्ट कन्क्लुजन कडे यावं अशी सगळ्यांची रिक्वेस्ट आहे. सो प्रत्येकाला 4 मिनिटं दिले जातील आणि 1 मिनिट एक्स्ट्रा असे प्रत्येकाला 5 मिनिट मिळतील. त्या पद्धतीने प्रत्येकाला आपापला पेपर प्रेझेंट करायचा आहे.
Next, Kirti Kurnik in College Kolhapur. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kirti Suhas Kurnik, and my topic here to present is Shahu Maharaj, Perspective on Education and Educational Reform. I feel very privileged here to speak about Maharaj, and there is no need to introduce him or for his introduction. Still, I have made some point that explain or describe his birthday and his coronation, that was in 1894. He was a very visionary, revolutionary king, democratic king. of India. I would say of India because he, I think, is the only king that thought about his people in every sense. Maharaja's views about education was that, as I said earlier, were revolutionary because he thought in those days education, people were not that much aware of the importance of education. There was much of inequality and inequality and indifference to the lower class people or the destitute or socially quarantined people. So he recognized the importance of education and enlightened his subject with the importance of education. He thought education or knowledge through education as a medium of upliftment to uplift the people, the low class people. Education was important, and his policies, his strategies, his educational strategies were based on these very views. As we all know that Maharaja in 1917, he the act of free and compulsory primary education was started by Maharaja for every child of society, and for that he 1 lakh rupees was invested in this scheme, and the parents who were unable to, or the children or the students who were not attending the school regularly, for that the parents were fined 1 rupees at the end of every month, so that every parent should send their child compulsory to the school. And an educational officer was also appointed to present the regular report on that. A reward was announced by Maharaja to the teacher in the school, that the girls were achieving, that means passing with good marks in the school. So the students were also encouraged by giving them rewards. There were the teacher training school were open for the women, so that more women would be prepared